The big thing is what's pretty cool to hear about is obviously you're a receiver. You played at a very high level. Um, Ricky Pearsall is finally back from his hamstring injury. I want to get straight into before we even start talking about how training camp went today and how the defense looked, offense looked. What are your expectations for Ricky Pearsall? Because we saw Ricky Pearsall not be able to fully participate in training camp. He's finally going to be a full go tomorrow. Today he went through individual drills. Didn't go through much else outside of team drills or anything like that. What are your expectations for Ricky Pearsall? And should we hold back on expectations? A lot of fans think he could replace Brandon Ayuk. What are the expectations? Obviously, Brandon Ayuk ain't there either.
Separation. I want to see Ricky separate. I mean, that's what they brought him on for. But he's not going to replace Brandon Ayuk. I'm sorry. You know, he was a first rounder, but he won't replace Brandon Ayuk. But I want to see him separate. I want to see him in training camp, you know, win on third down, you know, beat the nickel backs, beat press coverage. That's what he struggled with in college. So, you know, I want to see that. I want to see that growth. I want to see him, you know, be that guy that, you know, the Niners drafted him to be. And that's to, you know, create separation, beat man coverage, beat press coverage. But I mean, we know he can run routes. We know that. But can he beat press coverage? What can he be special? I mean, he's a first round draft pick. Can he be special? Can he do something with the ball, you know, after he catches it, or is he going to be a catch and drop, you know, possession receiver? You know, that's not a bad skill to have if you're consistently open, you know, and you're moving the chains. But you know, we drafted him in the first round. I want to see him be special, right? He's an older receiver, so his learning curve isn't going to be as, you know, as hectic as a younger receiver coming into the NFL. But he's still a rookie, so you know he's going to have a curve. But I expect him to be ahead of schedule. You know, but really mainly I want to see him separate. You know, we've heard it so much. His route running. Let's see it. You know, I'm ready to see it. And hopefully he continues to get that hamstring right.
And that's the biggest thing for me. Like, I want to tamper expectations. Like, a lot of fans want him to come in and be this straight dominant receiver. But the thing is, though, is we never saw a dominant receiver from college at any level at Arizona State, Florida. We never saw a true dominant receiver where he's going to come in and he's just going to take over the offense and make everyone look silly defensively, right? Like, that's what we're not going to see. What we're going to see is hopefully good route running. My biggest thing is, what does he look like against press? Because right now the defense is pressing. All these receivers are getting up in their face, and press man, and making it hard for them. They're making life harder. That's a one big thing that I saw from him coming out of college that he struggled at. People were like, "Oh no, he could run." You could run. There's two different things of you could run routes, but how do you get off of the line of scrimmage? What's your feet look like? What's your plan to beat press? Like, that's to me is one of the bigger things that I felt he struggled at. And for me, we're going to see him be able to find the soft spot in the zone. That's something he was great at. He was great at running to the open spots, finding the soft spot in the zone. How does he look when it becomes a contested catch opportunity? Does he go up and win it like he did at Florida? Because that's something that I thought was one of his strengths. Or does he try to play not with his hands and more so body catcher? That to me is going to be a big thing to see as well. The offense needs the receiver to step up, though, in camp. Obviously, Debo's been getting target after target after target, but Debo still isn't beating press man. So that to me is like, okay, well, man, the longer BA sits out, I think the more leverage he kind of gets because you don't have that true route runner on the field. Do you think that could be something BA's hoping to see? Like, all right, I know what Ricky Pearsall is. I saw him at Florida. I know what he was at Arizona State. He's not going to be able to beat press man, and that's where I come in. What's up with Brandon Ayuk? Is he signed soon? Because we're already in day one of padded practice, and he's still not on the field.
Yeah, I mean, the Niners have to sign him. I see it. I mean, and it's not everybody. I see a lot of 49er fans on Twitter saying like, "Oh, he's greedy," and we'll trade him. We got Ricky Pearsall. I'm here to say Ricky Pearsall is not Brandon Ayuk, and I don't want to find out next year. We'll find out eventually. I don't want to find out next year during this Super Bowl window, but Ricky Pearsall is not Brandon Ayuk, and that's not fair to him. Let him create his own path and not be Brandon Ayuk. But the Niners need Brandon Ayuk. If we think that he doesn't matter as much as he did last year, we're going to be in for a rude awakening. So I think they get the deal done. And I can see, like, just from reading different articles in practice, I feel like his presence is missing. I know Trent Williams in the offensive line is missing some pieces as well, but I think Brandon Ayuk's presence is missing. And, if the fans will learn sooner or later, hopefully not, but how big of a piece Brandon Ayuk really is and how good of a receiver he really is.
So far through all camp, Brock has not completed a ball deep down the field. That's something Brandon Ayuk last year during training camp was doing very well. And that's, for me, it says a lot about the offense, right? Like, if you lose that element of the deep threat, now all those safeties start coming down, start creeping down, because you have no one that could beat me over the top.
Mm-hmm.
George Odom getting interceptions in practice here. We'll get to that in a minute. But that just tells me, like, all right, what's going on? Is he, like, what are the defense seeing? Like, okay, well, we know Brock don't got that deep threat. We know no one's going to beat us over the top. Let's start cheating a little bit. What happens is, once you start seeing the same offense over and over and over again in camp, you start knowing what they are and what they can and can't do. And without Brandon Ayuk, you're going to have those guys creep down. For me, not having Brandon Ayuk is a big problem for the 49ers offense. And I know a lot of people are calling him greedy, trade him. You were in the league at one point. You know a lot of dudes across the NFL. You've played with a lot of guys. What does it feel like when you are, like, or at least from your perspective, when fans start calling players greedy and start telling, like, oh, on social media, trade them? Do you guys, like, as NFL players, do you notice that they do notice that, or is it more so like, it is what it is?
No, yeah. I mean, I know a few NFL players, that have had contract years, and they see it. They definitely see it. And just because one player takes a pay cut to help, a certain area of the team, doesn't mean that they all have to take pay cuts and help other areas of the team. They definitely see their peers and where they're at as far as yearly average. And I'm pretty sure Brandon Ayuk is looking like, Jalen Waddle's getting this. I definitely deserve more than him. Amon is getting this. I feel like I deserve somewhere around there. Why would you, just like every day at work, right? You're going into work. You're the best performer at work, but this dude who's slacking off and he's not doing nothing is getting paid more than you. How are you going to feel? Regardless, y'all both get paid pretty well, but don't you feel like you should, get that promotion or get paid more than the person that's slacking off? So that just because they're making millions and millions of dollars, they still feel like they need to get what they deserve.
And I think that's a great way to put it, right? Like, because they are looking at what everyone else is getting paid around them. At one point, Brandon Ayuk was ready to sign early in the offseason at a much lower rate. But at that point, that's the 49ers' fault. Because, right, like, it's, when you look at it, it's like, if a player's getting ready to sign early and he's wanting to sign early and you're not pushing for him to be signed, once those other guys who he knows he's better than, or he feels like he's better than, get paid, that's when things start changing. And people are like, oh, how are you going to do that to the Niners, blah, blah, blah. That's not besides the point, because obviously I think he'll get done, everything like that, even if he has to play on that fifth-year option. Trent Williams not being there, the offensive line looks terrible. I was listening to Isaiah, so the coach, and Jesse Naylor of Last Second Sports, and they were talking about the O-line, and Jesse, he went on to say, like, they look bad, like really bad, and coach was so he goes by coach because he coached at the college level. So he goes by coach. He's like, nah, man, they weren't bad. So I didn't think they were bad. He goes, they were unprofessional. He goes, like, none of those guys looked professional level offensive linemen. A lot of those guys didn't look like they were professional level offensive linemen. Do you think the Niners have to do something about the O-line, or what's going on with the O-line, from your perspective, or what would you want to see the O-line do? And obviously they're missing Trent. He'll eventually be back. They'll get him signed. Like, I don't think that's going to be an issue.
Yeah.
Brendel and Feliciano were not there, so your potential three starters are still there, and the offensive line looked terrible. You had Banks, you had Puny, and you also had Colton McKivitz. Colton McKivitz, from what I was told from multiple people, looked like the best offensive lineman on the field.
Oh, brother. Now that's a problem, and not a good problem to have. So, man, I mean, it goes back. It just doesn't start this year. It goes back to previous drafts, previous free agent signings. Like the Niners do not like really take it serious. They don't take the offensive line serious. And again, I don't know if that's Shanahan just thinking like, hey, I can scheme around the offensive line and their deficiencies. I can do something to make our offensive line look good. Until you play against another good defensive coordinator who's also a great mind with schemes and X's and O's, and then it's like now we need to rely on our offensive line and give Brock some time back there. But man, I don't. At this point, what can you do? You can bring in more competition.
But at this point, competition that you bring in, if you sign someone, it's not going to be good competition unless
it's going to be good comp.
The only guy out there I'm like, okay, it would be a good competition if you bring in Connor Williams, but even then he's recovering from that ACL injury that he had with Miami, so that's why he's unsigned. He would immediately be a plug and play starter either at center or right guard. But at that point, you're bringing in someone injured, so you don't know what he could give you yet. Do you think they should make a trade for an offensive lineman, whether it's a backup tackle, whether it's a starter that could potentially be your starting center? Do they need to do something at the offensive line? Is that going to be an excuse for Kyle or eventually? Because every year I felt like the Niners have either got the NFC Championship, Super Bowl. There's been a reason he has an excuse, right? Jimmy Garoppolo, this 2019. The year before, Jaquiski Tartt not dropping the year after, Jaquiski not catching the interception and them crumbling. Last year, the offensive line not picking up a key block there in a key situation. They had the opportunity to fix the offensive line. They didn't. What excuse does Kyle have now? So do you think they should go out and trade for someone?
Yeah. I mean, if it's as bad as people are saying and what I'm reading on Twitter, because I haven't actually gotten to a practice, yes, I think you need it. This is going to be the best team that they have, from here on to like 3, 4, 5 years down the road. Trent Williams is getting older. George Kittle is getting older. I don't think Debo will be here that much longer. Who else? The defensive side of the ball.
Charvarius
Ward, contract guy. Like, we don't know what's going to happen beyond this year. So this team may not be this team in the next 2-3 years, right? So this is now. This is the time. And if you're going to the Super Bowl, you're going to the playoffs, NFC Championship games, what is the glaring need? It's been offensive line. It's time to fix it, whether that's a trade, it has to be a trade. So yeah, I think they need to go out and identify somebody who they feel like can come in and start and help their team win, get to that next level and execute that trade. Whatever it takes, honestly. But be smart with that trade capital, because you know how we can get with trading around draft picks that don't work. But
you're saying don't trade 3-1s for an offensive tackle?
Don't trade 3-1s for an offensive tackle. but get it done, man. I think they need to trade for an offensive lineman. That's last year that was the case. That was the biggest glaring need, the offensive line. And the offense and the stopping the run, but defense still did their thing. Go get some offensive linemen, man. Trade one. We need one before camp is up for sure.
I mean, what's funny about it too is like they had the opportunity to take someone I was extremely high on, Kingsley Suamataia out of BYU, and
he's with Chiefs.
He's with the Chiefs, and he's actually starting. So they drafted Wanya Morris last year in the 4th to replace. Like, they kind of already had the idea they're gonna have to replace their left tackle. They're gonna let him walk. It's gonna be too much money, XYZ or whatever. And they drafted Wanya Morris last year in the 4th. They still followed up and drafted Kingsley Suamataia in the 2nd. And right now, Kingsley's winning that battle. He's been going with the ones every day, from what I've been told, but I'm watching. I've seen a lot of clips because a lot of other teams. It's so cool to see and be able to see how other teams look.
Yeah,
because they give their fans access in the sense of they allow fans to record at camp. The Niners don't. The Niners say cameras off. So he's looking good. I've seen a lot of videos of him. He's looking good. Had a nice block to create open a big run. Pass road. He's growing every day. And then we had Kyle. I want to say it was day 2 of camp, maybe day 1. He was asked about offensive line and if the offensive line was an issue. And his response was kind of wild to me. He said that the 49ers don't have a philosophy regarding the offensive line. They don't have a philosophy inside out, drafting wise. There's no philosophy there. And I think this is what Hater Debate from Sports Talk says is, why don't the Niners have more respect for the offensive line, especially after losing so many QBs? I'm going to let you take this one. Is there an issue philosophy-wise? Obviously, Kyle says there's no philosophy about the O-line. There's no respect there to bring top offensive line in versus you look at a team like the Chiefs. They have the best quarterback in the NFL, probably the best quarterback to ever play the game of football.
Arguably.
His interior is the best interior in the NFL, hands down, no questions asked. And they still are drafting year in, year out offensive linemen early in the draft. Is this the 49ers issue, and why do they feel this way about the offensive line?
I mean, it goes back to it has to go back to Kyle, because I think Kyle runs the show over there. It goes back to Kyle feeling like he can scheme and work around the offensive line's deficiencies, right? So I mean, it does work. I mean, the offense has been balling, right? They putting up league high numbers in every single category. Brock Purdy is at the top of the list in every single quarterback stat. But when it comes down to it, we can't trust the offensive line to hold up. And if Brock Purdy doesn't get that first read, now we got to depend on the offensive line. If Kyle's not dialing it up to where everything is just flowing and everything is hitting on all cylinders, now we have to look into our offensive line. So honestly, it goes back to Kyle. Kyle believes he can scheme and call plays that hides the offensive line's deficiencies. Otherwise, I don't know. I like the way Kansas City does it. The offensive line is like a high priority for them, right? They're, like you said, they're always drafting. They're always trying to get the next best guy in there to protect the arguably one of the best quarterbacks to play in this league, right? To ever play this game. So yeah, it's Kyle. At the end of the day, it's Kyle. It is. I'm sorry.
And we've had the offensive line coach Chris Forrester come up and talk about how the Niners have like this thing where they don't believe early picks and they could develop later round guys. Well, the thing is, though, is when you're looking at the NFL draft, I don't care what position it is. The guys with better physical traits are more likely to go early in the draft because they have higher potential, no matter what. The only reason why you see a guy go later in the draft and he has those physical traits that you're looking for from top offensive linemen or any position we're looking at, sometimes it's character issues. Sometimes it's something where they had health issues or something like that. The reason why I was super high on him too, Trey Smith, who's with the Kansas City Chiefs.
Right.
I wanted the Niners to take him in the second round when they took him. He ended up falling in like the fifth or sixth because of a health. He had a blood clot in his bloodstream, so a lot of teams were worried it wasn't going to let him play. So you can't. The thing is, you can't coach physical traits. You can't teach. You can't. For example, if me, I'm a smaller Mexican dude, right? If I was to go play around NFL players, first thing the coach is gonna look at me like, "Hey, yo, homeboy, I can't get you to grow. I can't get your arms to get longer. Like, there's nothing I physically could do to help you. I could coach you. You're gonna get better, but it's gonna be very marginal because you don't have the traits to become that kind of dude." So for me, I get why they believe like, hey, I could develop players, but even then, Jay Hart, can you name someone we've drafted late in the draft at the offensive line position that Chris Forrester has developed?
I was just about to say, like, there's nobody that comes to mind. Brunskill, that's it. Is that the only one?
And he was undrafted, and they developed him to be a solid starter. And I think was with the Titans now.
I mean,
solid starter.
With that, I mean, he had a really good game versus Aaron Donald that one year, and that's what really just put him on the map. I don't even know if he was really playing that well across all the games that year. But I mean, they didn't keep him, so
says a lot, right? It says a lot when you don't keep a player and he's from dominating Aaron Donald. So it says how you really feel across the board. And for me, it's one of those things where, like, outside of Brunskill, I'm thinking Colton McKivitz maybe, but you drafted him late in the draft. But even then, he's an average starter. Like I look at anyone else I look at, Banks, who's one of your starting left guards, you draft them in the second. So there's more potential there, and
Exactly.
that's why he's a good
Big
starter.
baller. Yep.
So for me, that's my bigger struggle. Now, you've obviously played in the league and everything. I'm gonna get to Steve-O's before I get to that one. Brunskill and Debo ride on bikes together celebrating. That's hilarious. You obviously played in the league. You've been in training camps. You've been in OTAs and stuff like that. When quarterbacks are throwing interceptions, when quarterbacks are having miscues with the receivers, obviously a lot of times when it's OTAs, training camp, it could be on you guys as receivers. And in the sense of some of the receivers, whether they don't know the routes, they don't know the play, a lot of things play a huge factor, right? And for me, I think interceptions have some weight because obviously you practice how you play. Sometimes with the context that's behind an interception, why did the interception occur? Is it the quarterback throwing into double coverage? Is he throwing a pass that he never has done? Because if he's a pass that a quarterback doesn't normally throw, okay, I could live with it. But when you're making the wrong reads and you're throwing into double coverage across your body, those become an issue. You've been in these coaching staff meetings. You coached too a little bit.
Yeah.
What do you guys talk about? How do the players see it? Does the interception in training camp matter to you?
Yeah, and it depends who we're talking about, right? I've been in quarterback rooms with Derek Carr, right? And I've seen him and Gruden go back and forth, like not even crucifying him, nothing, like not even like going off on him for throwing the pick. It's more so like what were you looking at right there? And he's a vet, right? He was in the league for about 9 years at that time. So it depends who we're talking to, right? For Brock, we're talking Brock, right? We're talking Brock. He's a younger quarterback, but he's done things in the league to give him some type of leash, right? Some type of leeway to where, Shanahan's probably like, hey, I mean, what were you looking at here? I was just trying this throw out, coach. I seen him, go that way. I seen him show that shell, so I tried to zip it in there. Those are the conversations that happen and go on in these meetings. So me personally, I don't feel like Brock Purdy it's nothing to be alarmed about. He had some interceptions thrown last camp, but he was coming off of the elbow injury. Yeah, the UCL injury. But right now, I don't think it's time to panic. But I am a believer on you practice how you play. And, at the end of the day, he's not going out there to throw interceptions on purpose. Let's just put it like that, right? He's trying to complete every single pass, make every throw. Whether he's trying things or not, maybe it was just a bad read. Maybe it was arm strength. Maybe it was this or that. I don't know. I didn't see the throw, but it's nothing to be alarmed with Brock. But at the end of the day, he's not going out there to just throw the interceptions on purpose.
And for me, I don't care if he's throwing interception. To me, I feel like I've always been a firm believer. I've coached by old school ass coaches where you practice how you play. And if you're practicing like shit, guess what? Game day, you're going to play like shit because you're not prepared for the game. Obviously, we don't have a game. But the thing is, though, is how are those interceptions occurring, right? So I talked to multiple people that were at training camp. I asked them, how did these interceptions come? Before we get to that, I'm going to get to Johnny Holland has done the best with the least draft capital he has. He's developed Dre Greenlaw. We've seen Azeez Al-Shaair. He's developed linebackers, and he's gotten low capital or undrafted free agents. So that's a good one right there. So from what I was told, Brock threw 3 interceptions. One of the interceptions was off Logan Thomas's hands. So what I was told is the interior pressure came from up the middle. Brock had great pocket presence, great feet, rolled out, extended the play, put the ball on where Logan Thomas could catch it. Logan Thomas popped it up, tried catching with his chest, popped it up. Ball goes in the air. Fred Warner makes a play. To me, that's not on Brock. That to me is like, okay, I can live with that. Like,
right.
Your tight end has to make that damn play. Like, you put it on him, he has to catch the damn ball. It's a touchdown. And then the next one was Brock Purdy was throwing a pass to Braden Willis. And from what I was been told by multiple people, Braden Willis really wasn't open. Like, if you look at the route concept and everything, he really wasn't open. Had to be a perfect throw. Probably one of the ones he should have ate. But the guy that I did talk to said, you know what, I'm putting it on him though because it wasn't a great throw.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, if Braden Willis catches it, he's laying completely out to go get a ball. So it's one of those ones where could be on the quarterback, could be on the tight end, could be the wrong route. Interception. Denominator Lenore made a hell of a play. Everyone said it was a hell of a play. Okay, I can live with it because it's not one of those ones where it's a great play from a defensive back. And when I hear great play, like, all right, cool, I can live with it. But then the third interception that I'm going to reference is Brock Purdy was rolling left. The biggest thing is quarterbacks are always trained to do what?
Not throw across their body. Across
right?
the field.
So what? He threw it across the field and ends up getting picked off by George Odom. Throwing across the field, that's a bad decision. I can't live with that because one, you're coached from Pee Wee ball, from the age you're 10 years old and they actually start throwing the ball, maybe even younger nowadays, when they actually start throwing the ball, don't throw across your body. Throwing across your body, in my opinion, is a bad decision. For example, I said this during the season. He threw a touchdown pass, was it the Jaguars game, across his body to Brandon Ayuk. And it was a little bit in coverage where if it wasn't for Brandon Ayuk making a nice play, George Kittle being there in a way, probably could be intercepted. It's a risky play to make. Now, touchdown, that's a hell of a throw, but it's a bad decision. Even though the result is a touchdown, it's a bad decision. Does that change your mind when it comes to bad decision making? Like, oh, all right. If a coach for example, if you were in the room with Gruden, you mentioned Gruden. If Gruden saw Derek Carr throw across his body into coverage and he gets picked off, what is Gruden's remarks regarding that kind of play?
Oh, he's tearing into him, right? And we're not supposed to throw against our body. Why aren't you looking here? This is where the concept is. This is the field. This is the side of the field we're looking at. This is what we're working. Why are you looking there? Things like that. And it's a bad habit. You don't want to create bad habits. And like I said, Brock is still a young quarterback. He's played great, but you don't want a young quarterback to start having these bad habits and him getting used to throwing across his body. Now some of those he's going to convert, but some of those are going to be picked. But like you said, Brock showed the ability to do those type of things, and he showed that he can be that special type of player. But I'm a little skeptical when these throws are in harm's way. And he's had games last year where the picks were just dropped, right? The different drop of the ball, the game could have went the other way. So I'm skeptical. I don't really like to see the quarterbacks having bad habits and doing things that could potentially put the team in harm's way. But I'm curious to see how it plays out this year.
And then Albert Soto, great point. One thing we do know about every time about Brock is after he has a bad day, he comes back and follows it up with usually his best day. So he's probably going to come back and bounce back, throw four touchdowns, no interceptions, and we're going to be like, all right, those interceptions really didn't mean much. But still, with the context of it, like when you're looking at training camp, it's like, ooh, all right. Like for example, all right, I'm gonna put another perspective. Let's say a receiver is having drop issues all throughout training camp, or a running back is fumbling the ball every other play, like he's having fumbling issues in camp. Fans talk about it as it being an issue. Why? You don't want the player to do something that he's not supposed to do. Yeah. So does that matter if a receiver, for example, is having drop issues versus like not, or like, is it a completely different thing because it's a receiver?
No, our fan base picks and choose on what to accept and what not to accept. I love our fan base, but they do. But yeah, if word comes out that Brandon Ayuk comes back and he's dropping all these passes, what's going to be the next thing to come out? We paid him all this money for him to drop all these passes, or he wants us to pay him all this money, but he's sitting here dropping three balls of practice. Like, yeah, I mean, it matters, right? And the fans know it matters. And people on Twitter knows it matters, but we pick and choose on what we think matters or not. Bad practices matter. Again, Brock Purdy has a longer leash because of what he's done in his career, in the games. We've seen he can be a special quarterback. We've seen him play special. So it's not a case where we're like, oh my God, Brock threw 3 interceptions. What now? Back to square one. No, we know he's the guy. We know he's a really good quarterback, but
Absolutely.
we just don't want him to pick up those bad habits, him still being a young quarterback.
And the thing is, so Kenny makes a good point. So he did add some muscle. He's trying to get a little stronger arm, stronger lower body, so he has more torque and gets more arm strength. So he said, is it possible that because Brock has put some on some muscle, that he's having a few of these issues throwing the ball because he hasn't been able to hit, he's been overthrowing every deep ball. And he's probably feeling like, you know what, I have a stronger arm. I could throw across my body now. I could do what Josh Allen does in big time games, throw it across his body and connect on a receiver. Do you think that could be something where as you get stronger as a player, you develop an arrogance? For example, you can develop that arm arrogance. I'm sure receivers have the same way when they start developing better hands, start trying to catch everything one-handed, stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and that's probably a situation where he's like, oh man, I put in all this work to get my arm strength up. I've gotten bigger. Let me try things that, I normally wouldn't have tried last year, or I normally wouldn't have tried in a game. And he's going to make some throws where he's like, oh man, let me see if I can get this in there. It's going to happen, and it's going to happen throughout the training camp. Again, I just don't want it to happen throughout training camp, and then it bleeds over to the regular season, him still trying to, I put on this muscle, let me zip this ball in there. But again, I'm not worried about Brock until things start to happen in the game. But, like you guys said, he has a bad practice, but he comes back and it's like, okay, this is the Brock that we know, come back 13 for 13 in 11-on-11 sessions with 3 touchdowns, things like that. That's what's probably going to happen tomorrow.
And the good thing is, too, is like one thing that I forgot to mention is Brock was without George Kittle, Trent Williams, Brandon Ayuk. Who else was it? Christian McCaffrey. So a lot of those guys weren't, like, his key guys weren't there. But also the defense was out Charvarius Ward, Dre Greenlaw, Talanoa Hufanga, and Nick Bosa. So it's kind of an even playing field. So either way, there's some context in there. Obviously, you don't want quarterbacks doing it. It's not end all be all, but there is some importance to creating bad habits that could possibly stick for a young player like Brock. Right. Steve-O says, that's why I didn't lift while playing basketball. What you got to do is after you lift, you got to go shoot. After you lift, you got to go shoot because your arms are super heavy. And I remember back when I was hooping, we'd hit the weight room and then we go shoot. And the first shot you throw up,
it's like,
like, oh, damn, this ball feels super light.
Not even close.
So that's what's funny. It's now defense dominated today. Interior wise, everything completely dominated the day. Secondary, since the start of camp, has looked revamped. Guys like Isaac Yiadom looks like he's probably going to start. Denominator Lore most likely is going to start in the inside, and then Charvarius Ward. Mustafa's looked really good. But most importantly, like the defense overall, from a couple of people I took. So I watched Jesse Naylor and Coach's show, and they talked about how the defense is running on the defensive line more stunts. They're actually having their D-line move around. Do you think the defense could be better this year than they were last year because of the secondary and the depth along the defensive line? And is there anywhere in the defense that you're worried about? Because some of the defensive linemen that they brought in are more pass rushing specialists than run stoppers, and our run defense wasn't that great last year. Or do you think, you know what, once your secondary gets better and you're able to take away the pass, you don't got to worry about the run as much? Or is it does they pair together?
I think it pairs together. But I think they brought in the guy from the Chargers. Was it Brandon Allen?
Brandon Staley?
Brandon Staley to kind of put that together, right? And bring over some philosophies and systems from, that worked for him, right? So I think he's going to tie it all in. I know he's not the actual defensive coordinator, but I know he's given them things and different philosophies and, like you said, stunts and stuff. They're not just lining up and keeping everything in front of them and hoping that the D line gets there. They're actually doing things with the D line. And I think that will help the run defense. I mean, our run defense wasn't really good, but it wasn't the worst. Okay. It wasn't the worst. So I think the defense can get better. That's with, being able to stop the run to force them to pass. And our secondary is better. We're not having to worry about, Ambry Thomas over there if somebody goes down, right? We have Isaac Idom, who I've heard he's having one of the best camps in the defensive backfield. We got Huff coming back. We got the Ricky Mustafa who's been making plays, running around. Don't forget, like, we're stacked on defense. Like, what else do we need to be the top 3 defense, top 5 defense in the NFL, right? So I believe that they're going to get better. They'll find a way to stop the run, and with that, teams are going to have to throw, and I think that secondary is 10 times better than it was last year. So it's going to be
You were
exciting.
just about to mention Jair Brown. Jair Brown probably had the hit of the day. I guess so. The Niners had an end around where Debo was coming around the left side and Brock Purdy was his lead blocker in a way. And I guess Jair Brown came flying down, bad intentions, and just fucking cracked fucking Debo. Like, he made it a point. He made it a point of emphasis. So I guess the angle, everything was already done. Like, Debo was pretty much getting ready to go out of bounds. But he made it a point. It's like, you ain't out of bounds yet, dog.
Yeah.
And he made sure he finished the play the right way, as a safety should. From what I was told, he laid the fuck out of him. Like
there we go.
And that's my kind of play. Like, if you come down, you flying with bad intentions, and especially when a guy like Debo, like, oh boy, like, that's okay. And usually you don't see DBs hit Debo like that. And when I heard that, I was like, okay,
that's crazy. So the safeties is sounding like the safeties is like the stronger part of the defense right now, man. Like,
so far to start camp, it has been.
What's going to happen? Like, you got 3-4 safeties back there that could potentially just step in and not miss a beat. Man, that's a good problem to have.
Your base defense is going to probably have 3 safeties on the field.
Yeah.
Because if you think about it, like, if you have, for example, Mustafa Hufanga and Jair Brown on the field during base defense, you don't really got to worry about the run, because those guys could stop the run, and they could also play a little bit of man. They could play zone, so they could do a lot of different things, and it disguises a lot of things. So hearing that about the secondary and the safeties, I'm like, okay, like, I like that.
Yeah, I mean, you know what our linebackers do. Like, well, that's no problem. And also another name, D Winters. I heard D Winters is having a really good camp. He's had
a solid camp from what I was told today. Not told. I was listening to Jesse and the coach's show. They said they thought Jalen Graham was better than him today. So both young linebackers
like both of them. Yeah. That's another good problem to have.
Also, I know they're talking about Will Levis in the chat and talking about how he puts mayo in his coffee. Yo, Kalia, Steve-O, don't try it, dog. Don't try it. Like, if you try it, I might have to block you on all social media platforms. Like, don't try it. Please don't do that. If you do, though, let me know, because you're probably gonna have diarrhea. You probably have some kind of nasty ass shit. So let me know how it goes if you try it. Another guy on defense that I've been told has been solid, but nothing like phenomenal yet. Had a great pass breakup in the end zone on Jawan Jennings, but they're kind of letting him ease his way in. Is Renardo Green, and I think Renardo Green potentially he could be a starter, but when you have such a deep secondary, he probably won't start year 1 and year 2. In my opinion, I think it's best if he doesn't start, and the reason why is he's small in terms of strength, size. Let him go bulk up a little bit. Like, let him use his first full season to fully get in the weight room with the strength conditioning staff, nutrition staff. Not have to worry about school and stuff like that. I think if he adds on some weight, he has the physical attributes like the speed, the physicalness, physicality. Sorry,
there you go.
To be a legit corner. So I'm liking what he's doing. Do you think he should be pushed to start, or do you think you know what? No, I like what they're doing. They brought in Isaac Yiadom for the outside, probably play Demo inside, and just let him work his way into earning that starting job.
Yeah, I like it. Or let him earn it. One, because he's a young guy. who's handsy. So with that is going to come a lot of illegal contacts, defensive pass interference, things like that. So let them learn the game, see what works, what doesn't work, what refs call, what they're not going to call. But it's encouraging to see that he's a battler. You know, he's going against Juwan Jennings. He they're going at it. I hear from what I hear, they're going at it. And that's just a good mindset to have for a nickelback. So it seems like he's going to come up and, he's not afraid to tackle. He's not afraid to get in people's face. So that's something good, man, that Renaldo Green can build on, and just let him build, just let him learn that nickelback and learn the NFL game and all. And, next year, let him, come in and try to take a spot away.
Man, some of these takes in here about like the whatever condiments you guys be using, horseradish and mustard. I could do it with mustard, horseradish. I don't know.
I stick to barbecue sauce and ranch.
Yeah, I'm barbecue. Like my wife hates it.
Mm-hmm.
My wife hates it because, like, honestly, like I'll be eating anything.
Yeah,
and I'd be like, for example, I don't put ketchup on my hot dogs. I put barbecue sauce on my hot dogs.
Me too. If I don't got to use ketchup, I won't.
So I put barbecue sauce on my hot dogs. If I have mac and cheese, like I like just adding a little bit of barbecue sauce in there.
Oh, really? I haven't heard of that one.
So like, it just gives it an extra little flavor. Like, I'm a big ass barbecue sauce fan, so like anything I can, I put barbecue sauce on.
What's your favorite barbecue sauce?
Oh man, there's a barbecue sauce that I don't know if it's in stores where you're at, but it was in stores here. I haven't seen it in a while, but it's called Five Monkeys.
I haven't heard of that one, but Sweet Baby Ray's and Kinder's has a barbecue sauce. They got hella different flavors.
Yeah, those are my go-to. So usually Sweet Baby Ray's like the spice. I like the sweet and spicy one. Kinder's has the sweet and spicy one too. But like the Five Monkeys, so it's like Sweet Baby Ray, where it has a little bit of sweetness, but it's a little more spicy. So that's what I like a little spicy. I've been wanting to make my own barbecue sauce because it's like I like barbecue sauce so much, I want to make my own.
Yeah,
and then like make it spicy but like tangy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
My uncle makes a pretty good one. I'm not gonna lie. He makes a pretty solid one. I like to tell him it's not good though, just to mess with him. But it's solid.
Keep his mind right, not too big headed and nothing,
Absolutely. For my family, man, we get extremely big headed when it comes to like that. So gotta keep his ass humble.
Same. It's crazy. Crazy.
National Wing Day is today. Me and my wife are getting wings tonight because it's National Wings Day. I'm a big ass wings eater. Honestly, so we have a spot called Wings and Rings here in Modesto, and we might go there because they're giving 40% off. So typically, like I like to bounce around. I never eat the same wings over and over and over again. Like I don't go to one spot because I feel like once you start going there, like after like the fifth time, like this shit was like, yeah. So we usually bounce around. They're giving 40% off too, so you can't beat that. So
yeah, why not?
Final topic. Obviously, there's a lot of rookies. The Niners drafted this year. They signed a lot of guys. Which guys are you most excited about when it comes to rookies or a new signing so far in training camp? Outside of like obviously Isaac Guerendo, we can't really talk about him. And even if we were talking about him, he's like fourth on the depth chart because Jordan Mason's been freaking balling the hell out during camp. So like there's no Isaac Guerendo. We really haven't seen Ricky Pearsall, but you could possibly be excited about him. Jacob Cowling went down after a few days in training camp. So those are three rookies that have automatically been kind of knocked, in my opinion, from me, just because I haven't seen much from them in training camp so far. Right,
man. I mean, what's the chances of that? All your offensive rookies just banged up, skill position, just banged up like that, and hamstring issues. But I'm still gonna go with Ricky Pearsall as I'm most excited about because I want to see what he can be, especially me personally because
typical receiver.
Yeah. Me personally, I'm gonna go receivers because there were other receivers on the board that I wanted to take who had like star potential. Not saying Ricky can't be a good.
I mean, just saying, AD Mitchell is playing pretty damn good at Colts training camp. Just saying,
man. I seen a couple of clips of the kid at Carolina jumping over people. Right, so Leggett. I seen a couple clips of him jumping over people. So I'm excited about Ricky. They brought him in here to create separation, beat man coverage. So that's what I'm most excited about. I want to see him, and I love receivers like that. Like that's what I felt like I beat press, route running. Like I'm gonna get open. I may not do too much with it after I catch it, but I'm gonna get open. You can't guard me 1-on-1. Let's go. So I'm excited to see that in Ricky. I'm excited to see 1-on-1s if they do 1-on-1s in training camp. I'm excited to see that, and I'm excited to see him in game situations 1-on-1 where the ball is going to Ricky. Can he get open? So that's what I'm excited about, and I can't wait to see him.
And that's pretty for me. I'm not like, even though there's guys I had a lot higher than Ricky who went after Ricky. I hope he does well, man, because obviously he's a Niner. So I hope he does well. But like, they pass up on some dudes with traits. Like if you want a higher end receiver and when having to replace Debo and Brandon Ayuk potentially down the line, like you want to go with the guys with the higher upside who could be with your team longer, especially because Brock's coming into his prime. So like that's why, wait, we drafted an older guy, probably won't see a second contract with the Niners. That to me is like, all right, I guess you're getting him truly in his prime for dirt cheap. So let's have Ricky go. For me, I'm really excited to see Isaac Yiadom. Because he's been clamping at training camp. He's been playing really good football during training camp. Everyone that I've talked to says he's probably the starter, like in line to start. Now it is just 1.5 weeks of training camp, but I think the biggest thing that I think is making him look so good is they're playing press man. It's gonna make all your corners that they've drafted in the last couple of years, or Charvarius Ward, Demo, Bernardo Green, possibly even like you might see a little bit from guys like Ambry or Womack, because they're better in press man. Right. So seeing, like, for me, it's more so like seeing Yiadom like having a good start to camp is great, but I think more so like the philosophy changing of going a little bit more press. Even if you're in zone and you're just at the line of scrimmage and you're pressing like that, to me throws off a timing for a receiver and a quarterback, especially like you played receiver. How was it when you're getting pressed? There's an extra step or two that you have to create versus if someone's playing off, you're trying to get on his toes so he could get the hell out of there, and now you could do what you have to do. So for me, I think it plays a nice little different changer to the defensive line, being able to get after the quarterback that extra half second to get that sack. So for me, it's Isaac Yiadom. I'm excited to see what the defense looks like, because so far, from what I've been hearing, defense has been winning training camp so far.
Yeah. And that's typically how it goes. Like the early parts of camp, the defense is always farther along than the offense. But it's exciting to hear, and just to hear like not the typical names showing up and balling during camp. I mean, that's lovely, because the typical names are going to show up. The Bosas, the Warners, Greenlaw, all of them, they're going to show up and ball out. But to hear like, Jair Brown coming up and hitting Debo, and Isaac Yiadom having some of one of the best camps at the corner position, and he's probably going to start, just to hear things like that got to get you pumped up to see our defense play, even in preseason, man. So I'm excited. I'm excited for the defense.
So Kenny says he heard someone say Cowing is a bust. Any truth? Who said it? He saw it on a football show. I mean, you can't really. How can you call someone a bust when you haven't seen him really play? Like, from what I heard, first a couple of days of camp, Cowing looked really good. His speed looked there, route running looked there, caught a few balls. But you haven't really. How are you gonna call it, bro? How does someone call someone a bust without seeing them play like in the actual NFL game?
I mean, you can't. I mean, you can. And when Cowing it was a head scratcher. I think Cowing was brought in to be a punt returner and then kind of like a gadget guy for Shanahan, because it doesn't make sense that they went and drafted another receiver. It didn't make sense. But to call him a bust already, I mean, he's hurt, right? I mean, he had the OTAs, but he got hurt in OTAs, right? That's when he got hurt.
Yeah, so he actually got Cowing got hurt day 2 of camp, maybe day 3.
Dang, so
like,
yeah, but I did hear he was doing all right. Besides catching punts. I heard he dropped a few punts. Heard he dropped a few punts. So
that don't make coaches happy at all. You
At
dropping
all.
punts with no one coming after you. That's a real big issue.
and that's going to be his ticket to get on the field early. So
And what's weird though is I think Pearsall could beat him out as a punt returner. I think like Pearsall, because you have the sure hands. Now you're not gonna have those big splash freaking returns. I mean, you might have him here and there, but he's a safe returner. Can get you 7 yards, which is great for a return. So I think Pearsall is in line on that side in terms of returning. Now, kick returns could be a whole new story. Like Niners aren't even practicing that shit. Like that to me. They need to go practice. I've talked to a couple guys who have been there every day. They practice it maybe once or twice. Out of the 5 days, it's a whole new kick return for the entire NFL. Niners coaching staff, Kyle Shanahan said he doesn't know how it's really going to go. Yet they're not practicing it. To me, that's kind of interesting. Like, who do you think is going to be the kick returner?
So I think we talked about it on one of the shows. I thought it was going to be Isaac because I don't think he was a good running back, but I thought they saw something in him as a kick returner that he can possibly translate into a decent kick returner. But with him being out and just like not being able to practice, I think, believe it or not, I think Debo is going to get some run back there. Because from what I hear, there's going to be a lot of kick returns returned this year.
Oh yeah,
a lot. So what better than to have the best player besides McCaffrey, obviously, the best player with the hand on his ball on your team, Debo, get him more touches. So I think Debo is going to get some run back there for sure.
The only thing with Debo is don't get me wrong, he's probably going to break a couple of them, but his ass going to get got.
Yeah.
He ain't crib. He might crib one.
Yeah.
But his ass getting got. Like he's gonna get to like the 30. He's gonna get
field position game. Yeah.
He ain't. I don't see him returning them like left and right. Like some of those guys, like some of the guys might. But like the way it is set up now, like so I watched a lot of XFL and the XFL has it. It's sort of like a wide zone, inside zone kind of like play. Like you have to find the gap. Like you have to find the hole, and there's gonna be actual blocking. So you might even see teams throw out actual offensive linemen on the kick return team because you're trying to actually block, get out and pick up a block or someone who could create just a tad separation. Because remember, they're standing 5 yards in front of each other, 5 to 10 yards in front of each other. They can't go till he catches it, and now you're already out of the play because half the guys are on one side. You hit one side full blast and on an open lane. You have the whole left side. If you're hitting right, your whole left side is playing catch up at that point. So it's going to be fun to see. There's another question I wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
Oh, do you think Elijah Mitchell gets traded with how great Jordan Mason has been to start camp?
So I think it's a possibility, but who would want Elijah Mitchell with his injuries and being so injury prone? What would you get for Elijah Mitchell? He's a really good running back. Don't get me wrong. I think he's a good running back.
I think he makes a good point for kick returner too. He has 4.3 speed. I mean, he ran 4.3 at the combine.
You got to find a way to get him the ball because it's like he gets the ball a few times and then he's hurt. We got to find a way to get him the ball. What
would you take for him? Let's say someone called and said, AJ Hart, I want Elijah Mitchell off your hands. What can I get him for? What's the asking price you think he could go for?
I think he's getting a 6th round. I think he's getting a 6th round pick.
I don't do it for a 6th.
You just might as well keep him at that. I think he's getting a 6. Like he's had a really good rookie year, and then after that, he's just had so many injury riddled seasons.
Yeah, I don't for the 6th round. I'd rather have him be my 2nd, 3rd running back, maybe possibly your kick returner.
Keep him,
and then you let him walk in free agency. After this year, someone signs him. I'd rather get a 7th round pick for him eventually rather than a 6th round pick and getting that comp pick. Like that to me, it's not worth it. TC says, I pray that Brock shows up Kyle and plays how he wants and gives Kyle the middle finger. What happens? What do you think about this comment?
I mean, I think they work hand in hand. I don't think it's a Brock and Brock versus Kyle thing. I think they're really good together. I don't think it's a situation where Jimmy wants to do what, Jimmy wants to do it this way, but Kyle's saying no. I think they're on the same page. So I don't think it's a Brock versus Kyle thing. I think they're on the same page.
Yeah, because we saw that with Jimmy. Jimmy wanted to do one way. He wanted to go out a
Yeah.
shotgun, quick game. And Kyle's like, no, we're running my damn offense.
Yeah.
And that's when we started seeing your plays effing suck from Jimmy. And that's where it kind of like, but yeah, I think, what do you think? I'm listening to this question. Because I saw Grant tweet this question earlier, and I thought this was actually pretty interesting of a question. He said, what does Brock need more? A good O-line or Kyle Shanahan? That's a good question.
That's a great question. Because we know what Shanahan does with good quarterbacks. We've seen it, and he dials shit up. He dials it up, and he's a great offensive mind, and him and Purdy together are great together. But I don't know, man. I know a lot of people will say offensive line, but I think they're too good together. I'm gonna go. I think he needs Kyle more, but Kyle needs to get out of his way. Kyle needs to get out of his own way to get that Super Bowl. So there.
I'm gonna go Kyle too. And the reason why I'm gonna go Kyle is I saw last year Kyle could get Brock Purdy to the Super Bowl, or they could get to the Super Bowl together without an offensive line.
Yeah. We're seeing
now. If the Niners had an offensive line and no Kyle Shanahan and someone else is calling plays, I don't know what they're going to look like. So I don't want to go with the unknown. I'd rather say, you know what? I think he needs Kyle more.
100%.
Now, don't get me wrong. Every quarterback needs a good offensive line.
Yeah.
The offensive line wasn't terrible last year. It was a mid-level offensive line. Like you had 3 of your starters were solid across the board. You had obviously an elite left tackle. Your left guard was solid. Really good offensive lineman, Aaron Banks. Your center was solid. Your right side wasn't the greatest, but the way Kyle calls plays, he makes up for the offensive line. So a lot of times, you could hide it.
Yeah,
I think you could get a 3rd or 4th round pick at the trade deadline if there's injuries for Mitchell. I don't know.
I just think the talent. Yeah, you can get it for the talent, but I think the injuries is just going to hold a dark cloud over him as far as what you would get back for compensation wise.
Absolutely, and it's just a 1-year rental, so I don't see anyone trading a 3rd or 4th for him. Correct. It's a 1-year rental. You're not guaranteed to have him back. But that's it for today's show. Jay Harp, thanks for joining me. Anything you got going on that you want to plug? I know you have a lot of things going on all the time.
Oh man, nothing right now. I still got the bottles out. Still going strong with that. Trucking company. Still with talent acquisition with Amazon. So, man, I'm just trying to keep going, man. Keep this roof over the head for the kids, and so.
Absolutely. Make sure you guys go over to Twitter at JHarp2. Make sure you guys hit that follow button on Twitter. Make sure you guys go over to his YouTube account. Also the same as at JHarp2, I believe, right?
Josh Harper TV. On YouTube,
Josh Harper TV. Josh Harper. Make sure you guys go over to YouTube, Josh Harper TV. He's going to have a lot of good things over there coming his way very soon. So make sure you guys all tap in with him. Make sure you guys show him love on Twitter as well as his YouTube account. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. I'll be back tomorrow afternoon. I don't know if I'll be with anyone. It might be solo talking about 49ers training camp. Thanks, y'all. Have a good rest of your guys' night.
Peace.